Hello everyone and welcome back to another Movie Nights movie review. Today we're going to be talking about Argylle. This is the latest film from director Matthew Vaughn, who's directed such films as Kick-Ass, all the Kingsman films, and several other great films. And the movie stars Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, Henry Cavill, Samuel L. Jackson, John Cena, Dua Lipa, Ariana DeBose, and other actors, some of whom were a surprise and some of whom you see in the trailer. And before I dive into the movie, let's just talk about the trailer for a second. A lot of people got sick of seeing the trailer, but I have to admire, this is a like $200 million movie, and they wanted to protect the secrets of the movie so badly that they made one trailer, did not release another one, and just kind of said, don't let the cat out of the bag. Just go see the movie. And I agree, now having seen the movie, that that's exactly how it should be experienced, is by going in as cold as possible. And let me just say this early on. This movie will not be for everyone. There will be people who hate this movie. I'm not one of them. I enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's perfect, which I'll get into, but I did enjoy it. But like I said, there are a couple instances in the movie where as soon as they happen, people are just going to be like, I'm out. I can't do this. And those are the moments where I was like, I'm in and I love this. And don't worry, I won't spoil anything, but I will dive deep into my thoughts now. Let's start with the performances. Brilliant across the board. I thought every actor in this movie did a great job, and they all knew exactly what movie they were in. I will say, Sam Rockwell, MVP. I mean, when is he not the MVP in the movie he's in, really? But Sam Rockwell absolutely steals the show. And I think Matthew Vaughn's directorial style fit the tone of this movie really well, especially towards the end of the film. There are a couple sequences where we're like, yes, this is peak Matthew Vaughn. This is why I'm here. Although I do think the film could have benefited from being rated R. This is a PG-13 movie. And I was kind of surprised to see the fact that it wasn't rated R. And some of the shots are kind of set up to have more blood in them, and there just wasn't. I have no idea if this was going to be rated R at one point and then it wasn't, or what the situation was, but I do think turning up the fun level with R-rated gore could be slightly more fun, more Kingsman Kick-Ass vibes, but the action and violence in the movie still works. The movie doesn't not work with its PG-13 violence. I just think it could have been better. And speaking of the violence and the action choreography, I should say, it's incredibly well done, as is every Matthew Vaughn film. And some of it is, very in camera, very personal in your face, and some of it is very wild, wide-ranging with insane camera movements, what Matthew Vaughn is famous for. And each sequence does feel like its own mini-event. And the movie also does a good job of knowing when to not show the action and focus on other character bits while the action is going on around them. The humor also works really well in the movie. It's very funny, and that's another kind of Matthew Vaughn trait that gets carried over here. The situational humor, I think, works the best, although there are a couple just outright one-liners that got some good laughs out of me. Now let's talk about the actual story and script. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but this movie is wild. It constantly takes you in directions and takes sharp left turns, sharp right turns, and for the most part, I think they work. And I think that it's one of the only ways you can tell this story is by doing them. And something that I think the movie really has going for it is this movie is a parody of cheesy spy movies while also being a cheesy spy movie, almost akin to the 80s action movies that you used to get, but with the style of a Matthew Vaughn. And sometimes it works beautifully, and sometimes it blurs the line a little bit as to if this was the right choice to make, but overall, I think it worked for the better. My only big gripe with the movie, other than a couple moments that I think didn't quite work, is the pacing of the second half of the film. I think the first half is paced to perfection, and I think the way that it moves and it brings you information is really creative, it's very well done, and it keeps you engaged. Once you kind of find out one of the big cruxes as to what's going on in the movie, I'm trying to be very vague, I'm sorry. The pacing then becomes a bit all over the place. And I don't mean slow, and I don't mean really too fast. I mostly mean there are two big action set pieces that happen back to one another. And you might be thinking, oh, sweet, two back-to-back action scenes, that must be great. Individually, they're both great. I think just where they were placed in the film was a bit jarring, and it felt like each sequence needed a bit more breathing room. Another negative I'll throw in about the movie, it does get a little bit too convoluted for its own good. And what I mean by that is there's obviously a lot going on in the movie, and for the most part, it breaks it down for you. But as it ties into the plot of the movie and as it continues going forward, it gets slowly more just wait, but if this is happening, then is this happening? But at the end of the day, when you sit to think about the whole story and the whole plot line, it does track and it does make sense. But the way it presented that information to you could have been done a little better, I think. And I alluded to this earlier. There are going to be sequences in the movie that people absolutely hate, and it takes them out of the film. All I'm going to say is that there is a dance sequence, and when you watch the movie, you will know the scene I'm talking about. I loved that sequence so much, and the theater that I saw it in, it was a couple rows of press and then a bunch of free screeners. Press people, everyone ate it up. It was really high energy in the crowd, which I enjoyed. The movie also is a little bit too long. I think maybe 10 minutes could have been shaved off, but overall, you're kind of with the story, you're with the characters, and you want to see the journey that they're going on. Ultimately, to wrap it up, while the film is a little bit too convoluted for its own good, the pacing of the second half is a little bit off, and it has a couple sequences that don't quite work with what it's trying to do. For the most part, overall, this movie is incredibly fun. It's incredibly funny. The action is incredibly well choreographed and well photographed. The performances are great. It's made with that Matthew Vaughn style that you know and love if you watch his films. And it is the perfect love letter to cheesy 80s spy action movies while parodying that and being one of its own. That'll do it for this review of Argylle, guys. When you watch it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments below once you've gotten a chance to see it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next review.